Hi, I'm Becca Otis from Five Lines Pottery in Monroe, Washington.
And I'm Ryan Durbin from RD Ceramics, located in Southgate, Kentucky.
And welcome to Wheel Talk.
Hey guys, we've loved answering all of your questions so far. If you'd like to hear your question on the podcast, please send them to us on Instagram at wheeltalkpodcast or by email to wheeltalkpodcast@gmail.com. Thanks. Hello, everybody. We're live, or I'm live. This is Ryan here. I'll be recording this episode solo today because Becca she just arrived in Indianapolis it's probably been about 3 or 4 days now. So it's the 12th of January right now. This will be recorded the same week as when it's being released. So I've been kind of putting off recording this episode because it was going to be solo, and I'm kind of worried about the whole making sure I hit everything that I want to hit, not leaving things out, as well as just the content that we're going to do today. So kind of bear with me a little bit, but I'll give you a little bit of kind of the regular starting point of how my day's going and stuff like that, like we normally do. So it is Tuesday, the 12th. Did the kind of regular work today, and then felt like an okay, productive day at work, I guess. I had to get up earlier than I normally do. It's been weird. I've been, since the new year, I don't know what it is. Maybe I'm just less disciplined about my sleep time, but I've been staying in the studio longer than normal. So I've been down in the studio into 1 a.m. and I don't know how you get to sleep normally, but I cannot just go up, brush my teeth and just get in bed and just fall asleep. So I have to continually unwind for 30 minutes or so. Usually that's watching some kind of episode on TV or something for 20 minutes. Lately I've been watching a lot of Seinfeld, so we've got that recorded and stuff like that. So we'll pull that up, watch an episode of that, kind of shut my brain off so that I can focus on something. Otherwise my brain will kind of run when I'm trying to go to sleep. So, I've been getting to sleep at 2 a.m. and the last couple days for work. Normally I'm okay, I work 9 to 5, so I got to be ready at 9. But realistically, that doesn't happen. I usually roll out of bed at 9:15 or something like that and get started. And then I'm kind of ramping up to getting ready with, a cup of tea and stuff like that. And it's 10 o'clock by the time I'm actually doing stuff. But the last couple of days I've been having to get up at for meetings at 8:30. So kind of getting adjusted to that. And then obviously for some people, they have children or they're morning people or whatever. And they're 8:30, who gives a shit? Just get your ass up. But yeah, I've been getting in bed at 1:30, 2 o'clock the last week or so. And it's Sunday was not normally on weekends. I don't set an alarm or anything unless I have a show. Obviously, if I have a show and I got to get there and it starts at 10, I got to get up at 6:30 or 7 or something to make sure I have enough time. But on weekends now, I haven't had commitments going on, so it's been nice. I don't set an alarm, and I just Saturday night got in bed at 2 a.m. and then woke up at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Rachel went off and got started with her day at 9 or something. And then normally we'll sleep with the curtains closed because she doesn't like the light getting in and stuff in the morning. If it was me, I would sleep with the blinds open every single night because I like the sun coming in and starting to wake me up a little bit. But when it's just pitch black in there, no alarm on, I'm fucking out. I'm not going to get up. So that was kind of nice. But then it's you piss away most of the day because it's already 1 o'clock on a Sunday. But yeah, so after work today, I did take a nap on the couch and watching my phone or something. And then the cats come over and snuggle and sleep on you and nap and stuff. So I was nap for a couple hours and then went down to the studio, did something real quick to make sure my pots didn't dry out. And now I'm talking to you. So I think that's about it to get started. That's kind of how my day went this week, and we're 12 days into January, and I've been hitting the wheel pretty hard the last couple weeks already. Kind of looking back at my goals for 2020 and then looking forward to just some high level number of pots that I want to make because I looked back at how many pots I threw in 2020, and it was, I think, 3,650 or something like that, which seems crazy. I mean, a lot of those, I don't expect anybody to be like, oh, I need to throw that many, but a lot of those are, I keep in mind that a lot of those pieces, even though I do this part-time, a lot of those pieces are still shot glasses, they're spoon rests, they're, planter like saucers. So they're like small pieces that take very little time, but the numbers add up because, I might make 150 or 200 shot glasses in a month because I'm just cranking them out. And, but that has a big impact on that 3,600. This year, I think I'm shooting for hitting 5,000 pieces thrown for the whole year. And the way I tally that, at the end of a throwing session, I'll just keep a piece of paper and just jot down the form that I do it month to month. So for January, I'll have the form in there. So I'll put mug, and then I'll put like 30 if I threw 30 that night. And just make sure I do that before I leave the studio that night. And I pretty much know, whenever I clean my hands off for the night and I'm done with throwing, like log that so that I can keep up with it. So, I'm not doing it for like a hard and fast number of I need to hit this specific number every month or else I'm missing my goals or something like that. It's just like, for me, I want a stretch goal of, hey, I want to throw 5,000 this year and see if I could hit it. Hitting 3,600 this year, I'm like, well, that was pretty good. And then I was thinking, can I hit 5,000? Is that doable? Where did I get 5,000? I just kind of extrapolated based on what I think I can hit. And also to challenge myself, because I know that the shot glasses sold pretty well this year, especially when I started putting them online. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to sell, about the same or more. So I need to make more. And then also I'm planning to put some spoon rests online, hopefully in February, because I get some requests for that. And I sold so many spoon rests last year as well. And I think I've already made, I'm probably half of the pieces I've made in January so far are spoon rests. So yeah, I think I'm already at like 150 or 200 pieces or something for the month. But I've been making a lot of stuff, a lot of wheel time. I know some people take some time to get adjusted back to like a new year, and it gets really hard to get back to the wheel when you haven't been at it for a while. And Rachel and I did go on a little New Year's trip to Phoenix, so I was actually really itching to get back to it and make more. I think the big push for me to get back and start wanting to make was, I was still keeping my Etsy shop open, so I was still getting orders in. And I ended up having like 10 orders that I needed to pack when I got home. So I was pretty invigorated to get back home and, get those orders packed, get them out the door, and like get on to the next thing of starting to make stuff. And if you're struggling with that right now and trying to find motivation to get back in the studio, I would say just start small. Like start with some forms that you enjoy making and that are, maybe they're smaller pieces, or maybe you do try making some shot glasses off the hump, or some form that you've been thinking about making that you haven't had time to make because of the holiday rush and you're trying to like meet the demand of certain pieces that will sell. For me, I don't even have a show on the books probably until, I don't know, probably April, May. But, I've got some time here, and this might be the time to kind of experiment a little bit if you're struggling to get in there. And I've already started filling my damp boxes. I've kind of thinking about what forms I want to put online next. So the spoon rests are the high priority for me right now. They're pretty easy. They're quick to make. I can crank through a lot of them, and they pile up on the shelves. And it's just really, for me, it's really satisfying to just see a full board of pieces that are like done and are like ready to go to the next step. I think that's kind of what really pushes me to keep making stuff. Besides the sales, I mean, obviously the sales are the ultimate goal, is to make it so they can get finished, look really cool, and then get to somebody's house. So, I mean, that's the end goal, obviously, to get it out the door at the end of the day. But, within that, I get really satisfied with seeing like boards of pots and loading kilns and seeing full kilns worth and, boards of glazed work that's ready to go into the kiln for the next step. And it's just really satisfying for me. So, yeah, I hope you're finding some time to get some work in, or just time to relax if hopefully you're getting back to a stage where you're wanting to make some more. Normally I would be teaching right now. Well, not on a Tuesday, but yesterday would have started my teaching at Baker Hunt for an 8-week class, and that class did not fill. We kind of playing around with like the different classes, and so I've been doing an advanced class for the longest time, for probably 2 years or a year and a half or something. And we had some students leave recently from that class, so we were down to a couple students, and we need to have at least 4, I think, to fill the class so that it'll actually run for the 8 weeks. And we didn't have that many students, so they were like, hey, we need to adjust. Can we try this as a beginner class? So I was a little hesitant, because just with my style of teaching, especially right now during COVID, you can't do a lot of things that you would normally do in a teaching setting, like hands on hands, touching clay, actually showing them like close up what they need to be doing. You kind of have to do it from a distance and let them watch you do it. But I feel like teaching beginners, you got to like show them the pressure. They got to know how much pressure to put on it, where to position their hands, the intricacies of like how to choose the wheel speed with their hand motion, with the water. So it's obviously it's very hands-on because you're making stuff with your hands, but some of that is tougher to teach from a distance, especially during times right now where if we had 8 students in a beginning class split between 2 different rooms, I would be bouncing back and forth, as well as my I feel like I'm still kind of like an amateur with teaching beginners, because I haven't really taught that many beginners. I've taught classes, but usually I'll have like 1 or 2 beginners in the class, and they might need a little more attention, and then everybody else kind of is self-guided. But so we tried to run the beginning class, see who could fill it. We only got a couple students in that, so we couldn't fill it. And then they were like, well, we're going to still try a beginner, but we're going to move it back to a 6-week class instead of 8 weeks to see if we can fill it that way, because the price will be cheaper. Plus maybe some people are willing to do it for fewer weeks. That didn't fill. And now we're kind of the point where we need to come up with some options. If I can do like one-off classes where I'm talking about something or demonstrating something for a couple hours, but it would be remote. But I mean, a lot of the stuff that I do right now is teaching on Instagram for free and showing my process, and a lot of that stuff is documented and out there already. But so I'm kind of figuring that out, but I'm kind of enjoying the break from teaching the last few months, because we haven't had a class since September, I think, and it's been kind of nice, honestly. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I'm looking forward to getting back to chatting with Becca weekly. I think she's adjusted and still figured it out with the apartment. So looking forward to seeing where this takes us into the new year and being able to get together more often. That should be pretty fun. I know she'll be listening to this later, even though she doesn't listen to our podcast on a regular basis. I mean, I listen to it like right before we post it so that I can like put the right notes and stuff in there before we're posting it. But I know she's talking about listening to this one because I'll be talking about social media and stuff like that. And, she kind of likes how I run things with social media and how I've kind of built this following, and I feel like I'm proud to say that I like have some expertise in this to where I can speak to it, and hopefully people can get something out of it. I'm not going to like promise anything of, if you follow these steps, you will get these results. I know there's a lot of like classes out there and, social media like gurus or people that have a certain amount of knowledge about social media that'll, have all the pretty slides of what you can gain and what you can do to meet these goals and double your Instagram following and all this stuff. I mean, I'm just going to tell you my experience, what I do, be pretty transparent with you about everything that goes into it from my side. And then what you take away from it that's going to, work for you is kind of what I hope to put in your brain a little bit. You're probably listening to this in the studio or something right now. But I would say, this might be one to get some paper on the side if you want to like jot some notes down as you go. Obviously, you can listen to this back and jot some notes down. But so what I did, we'll kind of go right into the topic, but there's not really an overarching like question here. But the topic is basically just going to be talking about social media, a lot about Instagram, and a variety of questions that I got from you all, because we put this out through a post on the Wheel Talk Podcast Instagram account to get some questions from you all, as well as one of those like question prompts on Instagram stories. And you all sent us a lot of good questions. I see a lot of names in here of people that send us questions all the time, and I really appreciate you all sending those, because it's just, if you have the question, somebody else definitely has the question. Somebody else is thinking about it, and, being able to ask it, and for us to be able to answer it publicly, you all can, we're going to impact more than just the one person that asked the question. I get questions all the time on my social media, and, and don't feel like this is the end all be all of answers as well, because this is just my opinion and, what I've found success with. And some of it's like, there's not hard and fast like answers for these for sure. Like there's some wiggle room with these questions and answers, and how to find success, and, what works for you doesn't work for everybody else. So we'll kind of get into it, and then it's going to be kind of scattered. I was thinking a lot of the reason of the whole like deciding how to frame this and actually getting myself to the microphone for this solo episode, because it's like I can't bounce ideas off of Becca and just like bullshit a little bit, and like we'll get to the questions and we'll kind of have the back and forth. I was trying to figure out how to structure it, because I have so many questions that I wanted to like organize them in a way that I can tightly pack them into a bucket so that I can go down them like a presentation. But I'm just going to kind of wing it a little bit based on the questions here and answer as best I can and as honestly as I can. So got some water here, keep me from getting dry mouth, but we'll get into it. So I would say, I've done some Instagram classes talking about, Instagram for makers, and how I kind of frame it, whether you're trying to learn Instagram or just understand, the benefits of it and like why it's important to use. But this first one's going to be kind of like high level numbers about Instagram that I shared with those students when I was doing this workshop. So Instagram by the numbers. So it's the second most downloaded free app in the App Store. 1 billion users every month. It's second behind Facebook. 500 million use the Instagram stories every day. And 89% of the Instagram users are outside of the United States. The top countries are US, Brazil, India, Indonesia, and Russia. US was at the top with 110 million users. It's the fastest growing social media platform in Canada. 37% of American adults use Instagram. I know a lot of our listeners are in America, so this is probably going to cater mostly to the US, but 63% of the users log in once per day and 42% multiple times per day. And then the user average time on the app is about 27 minutes. I spend way more time than 27 minutes a day on Instagram myself, but And I'll put the link to these stats. This is from blog.hootsuite.com/Instagram statistics. So Hootsuite, I think, does a lot of like social media stuff, but you can kind of look that up if you want to see some of that. But just to show that there are 1 billion users that use the app every month. So people are looking for a lot of different things on the app. You got to kind of think of, there's a huge audience out there. And even if you're just looking at like who you can get to follow you, I have 28,000 followers right now, or 29,000 or whatever. Like, that's nothing. That's a drop in the bucket of 1 billion people. I'm not expecting to get to 1 billion, but feeling like you can't get a follower base. Like, there's plenty of people out there that are looking for art or inspiration or whatever you have. Like, there are people out there that can follow you. Don't feel like you're never going to catch up. Everybody starts at 0 and you have to go up from there. And it's kind of a discipline thing of being able to share consistently, learning how to take good photographs, how to mix up what you're sharing, and do your best to find that audience. I wouldn't say that when I'm kind of growing my following, I'm 100% going into it like, I want this specific person to follow me. It's more like, here's what I'm interested in. Here's what I feel like I can put on the table of value, whether it's a customer that's buying from me that doesn't know anything about pottery and they're just looking to see how I make my work, and like, there's actually a bunch of steps that go into making this thing and you make it by hand. Or it's other makers that are like, hey, I want to know how you make that carved design. That's pretty cool. Or how do you make a spoon rest? I just started in pottery and I want to make a spoon rest for my mom. Like, some of those factor into like what I post, but as well as just what are you interested in posting? What excites you about what you're posting? And then kind of go that route. You're going to have more impact of sharing things that excite you. And, definitely keep in mind that Instagram is a very visual platform. So you have to always keep photography top of mind, because the time that you have to grab somebody's attention. And what I was doing in my class when I was doing this, I would be demoing. I would hold the feed up and I would be like, okay, here's the amount of time that you have to catch somebody's eyeball. And I basically start my finger at the bottom of the screen and swipe up. And I'm like, hey, that's about how much time you got. So you got like a second. But also you got to have something that's eye-catching to people. I know that's kind of superficial, I guess, but it's kind of what the app is about. It's a very visual heavy app, but not to say that everybody has to have, maybe some people really get, people draw their followers in from like the captions they have to say because they're inspirational, or they really are good narrative people that have good stories to tell. You don't have to have the most perfected, staged, kind of posed photos to look like perfect or anything, but you have to have something that grabs somebody's eyeball. And like for me, it could just be, that's why a lot of my photos are me holding a piece in front of the kiln wall. The kiln wall is kind of like a blank canvas behind it that takes out some of the busyness. Some people would say that's still busy because it's got the elements and the brick cracks and stuff like that, but it's something that you can see the scale of it because my hand's holding it. You can see the piece, you can see the glaze, the lighting is good enough. It may not be perfect and whatnot, but that's just kind of how I like to share my work. It shows that a piece is coming out of the kiln, that there's a hand associated with making that thing. You could see it in my studio, so it's not like it's not in a situation that feels like it's posed and like for a magazine or anything. I kind of like that authenticity of, hey, I just took this piece out of the kiln and I took a photo of it so that I captured it before I sold it to somebody. A lot of times that's what it comes down to, is just finding something that works for you, and it just becomes consistent. Like, people probably consistently see my stuff and they'll see me holding something with my hand and they're just like, hey, that's Ryan's stuff, because of the way that he photographs it. And, you know, I try not to put any kind of filters on it, and just try to keep it like minimal effort. But it kind of comes up to what you want to do with it. If you want to do more like lifestyle photos and have your pieces in like very nice settings, like East Fork Pottery is one example. I know we talk about East Fork on here all the time, but you know, East Fork has the very, you know, they probably have like a photography like department or photography professional photography group inside of their marketing department that like it does all of those staged photos, and they have like actors come in or models come in to pose with them and have like the colored backdrops and all this. They build like a scene for their pieces, and that's also a way that you can go about it too, but you don't have to do that. You know, Tara and Matt from Pitch Pine Pottery, like Matt is a skilled photographer, and you know, they have like a theme and a setting, and they're trying to convey a mood. So theirs are very well crafted and thought out. And if you remember talking with them, like they have to plan their photos out a month in advance, because just the nature of the demand for their work, when they produce the work and they finish it, it sells and it's out the door, and they have no finished work to photograph. So something to keep in mind as you are building up inventory of photos, like always be taking photos, whether it's in progress stuff or finished work when it's coming out of a kiln and you're like, oh, I need to fill the shelf up, or I need to like take this to a show. Hopefully you have enough time that you can at least capture some of those pieces before you need to take them to the next step or to list them on the website and like sell them. Hopefully you can capture some of those photos and use them for your social media down the road. These days it doesn't cost you anything to snap a photo. It's not like back in the day where you had to, you know, take a photo and put it on film and you had to like go get that film developed. It doesn't cost anything to snap a digital photo or do it on your DSLR camera or whatever. I do all of my photos on my phone that I post on Instagram. I don't do anything super special like DSLR cameras and stuff. I do use the DSLR for my online photos that I post to Etsy, but not for my like Instagram photos, just because of the convenience of having it on my phone all the time, and I'm posting on Instagram from my phone. So that's kind of how I take all my photos. But if you kind of notice, a lot of my stuff is not very touched up. Like, for me, I kind of care more about the authenticity of, not to say that people that really like go into the photography side and like really touch up those photos and make them look like Pitch Pine Pottery, I wouldn't say that their stuff is inauthentic. It's just they're trying to convey a certain mood and brand for themselves that looks really amazing. And if you scroll down their feed, you can just see it in their grid that it just looks amazing and like captures the pieces and the detail, and it's just awesome. It's like a piece of art in and of itself. For me, I'm trying to capture of like, hey, I'm a potter that does this on this side, and I do this, they're growing this small business, but I'm like capturing these pieces as they're kind of in flight. And I kind of like it as, if I'm thinking of it like art wise, I kind of think of it as like I want to like capture it just like you would see if you were like to visit me in the studio. Like you would see a stack of pots in a kiln, or a stack of pots like on a shelf that are just piled up, or like pieces sitting on a shelf that look amazing, and I could just take that off the shelf and just hold it in front of the kiln wall, and that's exactly what you're going to see in the photo. And the only thing that I touch up is I will up the brightness a little bit. I might up the brightness like to 10 or something through the built-in Instagram editing thing. And like, that's all I do. So I try to keep those as close to exactly what they look like in person. So there's no tricks here. Like, I'm not trying to trick anybody. I'm not trying to be changing the colors of things to make them look better than they would. You know, I think selling online has its own challenges of, you know, you can't convey everything when you're selling online. You can't convey the weight of something, or it's hard to make sure that people understand what the colors truly look like or the scale of it when they actually get it in person. If they can't handle it beforehand, you have to kind of do your best to convey as much as you can through the photos. So I try to have my feed as authentic as possible. Exactly what you see is what you get. And I hope that comes across, as well as so that's kind of the post side of it. I need to get to some of these questions. We're already 30 minutes in, and I'm just bullshitting about this stuff. But let's get to some of these questions, and then we'll get a little bit deeper on some of this. Let's see. Some of these are really vague, like how to get started and grow. I would say, you know, I kind of answered that a little bit earlier, but like, think about what you're passionate about and what you want to share it, and do it consistently. You got to start somewhere. I mean, I was in these classes, I normally share the whole growth of like pictures along the way, year by year, and looking at how the pictures look. Your pictures are going to get better over time. You're going to get better at it. You're going to know what people are engaging most with, what people are liking more. Don't 100% base all of your choices of what you're going to post based on what's going to get the most likes and what doesn't. But you'll see what gets more engagement and other things that don't. So you got to start somewhere, and everybody starts at zero. So just start posting, and we'll get into the grow part here with some of these other questions. I kind of answered a little bit of this, but how to grow a following for sure. Maybe what steps you took to get to the following you have. So for me, there's a lot of different ways that I've seen the numbers grow. And in this workshop that I was sharing, I take snapshots. It's kind of cool to do this. So just on a notes app or something, as you're growing, I would say just take a snapshot every like 6 months or something, and just jog down what your Instagram follower number is. It'll feel a little like, it feels really slow. I remember being early on with Instagram. I started on Instagram in 2016, I think, or 2015. And those first like 500 people are even before that, first 300 people are like the hardest to get to. And then like from 300 to 500, so damn hard. And then 500 to 800, so damn hard. Like, takes forever. And you're like, what the hell? How do these people have thousands of followers? And they get, they go, right now I'm going from like 29.1 to like 29.2 in like a week or two. But if you think about it like a snowball grows more and more the more followers you get on top of it. So it's going to go up a lot quicker in a shorter amount of time as you go. So like, my wife has seen this, she just hit 1,000 followers on her Instagram account, and she's just been like, how do I get followers? And it's such a hard, and it's easy to say like, don't worry about the numbers, but it's hard to like drive. I mean, it's truly like, everybody starts at zero, and you've got to go up from there. And I would say don't put it so front of mind that like, okay, I need to get to this number. Just focus on the day-to-day of like doing things like posting consistently, answering people's comments. Up until maybe a year ago, I answered every single comment someone left on a post. every single comment, no matter what it was, if it was a heart, if it was a cool, if it was a whatever, I would comment back on every single thing. It shows them that you are seeing what they're saying, you appreciate their support. Maybe it's overkill, maybe not, but I think a lot of people are just going to go in there and just heart it. It takes no effort to just go in and heart their comment to say, I saw you, thank you. But if you're able to like even go in there and comment back and say, thank you so much, or thanks much, or thank you, or whatever, like I would do that. If you look back at some of my older posts, you'll see that I pretty much comment on every single comment, unless it's like a bot or something like that. If it's a bot, usually I'll delete those comments. But yeah, I pretty much always either like their comment now, which is like the heart on Instagram, or I'll comment back. If it's pretty repetitive now, I get a lot of comments, and I'll usually heart them. If they say something of context, I might say something else to them. If they say more than like an emoji. But, people don't expect you to comment back. Just like some accounts will say like, oh, I can't believe you actually like wrote me back on direct messenger. Like I have almost 30,000 followers, and they probably don't. Some people might not expect that I actually read my messages and comment back and reply to them, but I pretty much reply to everybody. I'm if you didn't know this about me, I am a 0 inbox person. I am a 0 notifications person. So I want to get everything answered in a timely manner so that number doesn't pile up. And if I don't get to it, I mark it as unread, and then I go back to it later. But, I am putting in the work to, even if it's just a little like thanks, how much work does that take for you to say thanks to people? And they don't expect it. So I think they realize that you're like actually a person, like appreciating them, like engaging with their content, and they don't expect it. It kind of like goes above and beyond it a little bit. Little bits at a time, and those kind of build on each other. Those little bitty relationships of people commenting back and replying to your stories and saying like, that's so cool, or that's funny, or whatever, and you actually reply to them or acknowledge that they said something and like appreciate them. I think that's what's driven me up, because all those little bitty tiny engagements add up over time. And I think it just gives people a glimpse into like who you are, like how you talk to people, how you carry yourself. That you're like an actual person that appreciates them following. I'm going to sneeze here for a second. Okay, I didn't sneeze. It was like right in my nose a little bit. Okay, so I was looking at my... I got this chart up here of my follower count over time, and I wanted to share with you some of the numbers of just how the growth goes. My growth was super organic. I say super organic. It was organic. I didn't like pay for follows or anything like that. So, looking at a graph of my numbers over time is so slow and steady. It's like up and to the right, but very slow. It's not like a jump up to the right. So like when I started logging it, and this is what you should do, I would say just log it every 6 months or something. Like January 2017, 500 followers. July 2017, 800. And then I logged again at the beginning of 2018, so 2,200. So I grew 1,700 followers in a year between 2017 and 2018. And then by the time I hit 2019, I was at 5,800. So it went from 2,200 to 5,800. So you can see that gap is wider than the first gap. And then from January 2019 to the next year of January 2020, I was at 13,000. So it pretty much is about like doubling-ish, or a little bit more than doubling-ish over a year. And that sounds like a lot. It's like, oh man, it's going to take that long to work. But I mean, it does. It takes time. It takes posting stuff. Looking back at my average number of posts, like I've posted over 1,000 times. I think I'm at like, let's see, what am I at right now? takes a lot of posts. I'm at 1,438 posts. So when I did the math of all the posts I had based on the time that I started on Instagram, I'm averaging about 5 times a week that I'm posting. Not to say every single person has to post 5 times a week. If it's, if you're just like, how do I start posting? How many times a week do I need to post? How much do I need to put into this? I started off, maybe just set a goal for yourself to post once a week. If you're well into it and you're making a lot of stuff and you have enough content to post, you got a lot of photos in your reel or your camera roll, and you're like, hey, I want to post some stuff. I have plenty of time and plenty of content here. Maybe you set a goal for yourself to post 3 times a week. I post 5 times a week. I pretty much post Monday through Friday, and I take weekends off for the most part because I'm usually doing things on the weekend and I don't like find time to post, but I kind of use it as a little bit of a like time off. But lately this year, I've only been posting like 3 days a week or something like that. But I'll kind of get back to it. But for me, I have plenty of content. I can post 5 days a week. I could post every day if I wanted to. But I would err on the side of posting higher quality photos and content over posting for the sake of meeting a quota and feeling like you have to post. If you feel like you have to post 3 days a week and you're at 2 days a week and it's the end of the week and you're like, oh, I got to post one more time or else I didn't meet my goal. Like, maybe sit that post out. If you can't get quality content and you're just going to drop a photo in there with a 4-word caption that says, I threw a thing or something like I'd say take some time to like think about what you want to say in your caption. I have not seen people that do very well with just posting something and putting like a short caption. Like, give a little bit of context here. Like, what is it? What are you happy about? What are you excited about? What does this photo, how can you make a story out of this photo a little bit? If you look in some of my captions, you'll kind of see I try to put a pretty good narrative in there or talk about something that invokes a feeling in me from something that I'm trying to show in the photo. And sometimes I'll post a photo as an attention grabber and the caption is what's important about the certain thing that's going on at the time. But yeah, post something with some content, it's all content's so general. With something to it. It needs to have some, I don't know the right word right now, but it needs to have some substance to it. You need to be talking about your process. Even if it feels like it's repetitive, just think of it as like people get served so much content on a daily basis. Of course, you're going to know every single thing that you've ever posted, and it feels repetitive because you've seen it, so other people have seen it, so they already know this. But there's a lot of newer people that follow you over time, and they don't know about certain things that you've posted before. And a lot of people aren't going back in your feed and like reading your captions from 2 years ago and seeing what you talked about, making the same exact form and the same exact glaze. So, yeah, find a way to tell a little story about what you're showing or, what you're feeling in the moment or whatnot. But, yeah, I would say that's kind of how I've got the following, as well as I would also say if you're a potter, definitely shout out the tools and the products that you use. That has given me so much return on investment by businesses and companies that I share their products and they share my work either through a story or they actually repost it on their feed. Diamond Core Tools has reposted my stuff quite a bit with my carving videos. Extensively, I have a good relationship with Speedball through sharing and tagging them whenever I use their bats. I use their underglazes. We have a good relationship. Like that led to them being able to give me a bunch of product for free. And I'm kind of like, Becca says I'm like sponsored by them or whatnot. But like we have a relationship. I like their products. I like them. They do good. They do good to like promote my work as well as me shouting them out. It's like a mutual thing. You know, if you use a certain clay body, like I use Kentucky Mudworks clay, and I shout them out all the time. If I'm showing a board of pots that I just threw and it's a bunch of white clay, I'll tag Kentucky Mudworks clay on the post, and Kentucky Mudworks will get a notification that I tagged them. And if it's a cool photo, they'll share it on their stories. They do that a lot on their stories. I don't know how some of these other companies do it. I don't know how Scut, if Scut Wheels and Scut Kilns, or you know how they share their stuff. But you know, a lot of these different companies have their products, and instead of feeling like they're like trying to sell their stuff all the time, you know, they have a plethora of artists out there that are using their products and are the best sellers for their products. So it's free advertising for them. If you tag them in a post, they're very happy to share your stuff. I would say don't ask them to share it. Like, kind of put the little like nuggets out there and keep dropping posts with you tagging their products in them, and kind of let them come to you. But you know, they'll get some familiarity with seeing you always tagging them, and they'll appreciate it, and they'll see what kind of work you're doing, and they'll start following you, and they'll start resharing your stuff. So I would say definitely tag the products that you use for sure, if you can. That has done wonders for just other audiences that find my work. And I know a lot of these companies, the people that follow them are probably other potters. Like there's not customers, like in customers of mine that buy my ceramics that are not potters, that are following like Amico Brent or Speedball. Like they might not care about that because it's a product, but there are a lot of you all out there that are, you know, constantly asking advice about what wheel to get, or what underglazes to use, or what bats to use, and how do you do a bat system, and like all of this stuff. So there's no shortage of potters out there that are looking for advice on pieces on products to use, and what's the best tool for this, and how do you get this design. And you know, these companies are sharing other potters' work because it's very visual, obviously, as well as they want to sell their product without shoving it down your throat of here's the product, here's why it's good. It's more like here's artists that are using the product, here's what they're getting out of it. And you know, we're kind of the best spokesperson for their stuff. And then a lot of the other growth has been accounts that share my stuff that are not business accounts. Not business accounts, but they are a lot of like curated accounts that'll find satisfying videos, whether it's like Insta Pottery or Pottery Videos or Paul Blaze. And then some of these just random accounts that have thousands of followers, like art_art.dynasty. Like they posted something in 2019, but they have like 186,000 people that follow them. I don't know. I don't follow these accounts that have these curated feeds of just satisfying videos, but you know, they have big audiences of people that just like to veg out and watch satisfying videos on Instagram. And there's a lot of eyeballs on that. So, you know, at the end of the day, the growth is going to come from having your stuff get into the most number of people, get in front of the most number of eyeballs over time. And putting out a lot of content is the best way to do that. So, you know, I said I had 1,400 posts. You know, you get a lot of people that see your posts, you know, 5 months and a year down the road. Like, there's different ways that people can find your stuff, whether it's through hashtags or, you know, somebody sharing it with somebody else, or, you know, these companies that are looking for cool, satisfying videos. You might have put a video out like 4 months ago that got decent traction, but then one of those accounts finds your video and they see it based on a hashtag you used, or something that got referred to them that was like, oh, this is really cool, this is really satisfying, where we just saw some pottery carving videos that, you know, maybe Forest Ceramic Company shared, and they really like that. So they're like, okay, well, let's look into some other pottery videos. Like, people really engage with that. Let's go find some other pottery videos that are really popular. And they might dig up and find your video that you posted like 4 months ago that did well on your feed, but it's going to do even better when they share it to their feed. So, you can't get past just the vast number of content that you have to put out, because there's so much. Like I said, there's 1 billion users on Instagram. Not every single user is putting out content. A lot of people are just kind of consumers. They're not creators. And they just look through feeds of people that they like their stuff, but they don't ever post anything. Maybe they post family pictures or whatnot. But if they're not creative people and they don't have stuff to post about, or things that people would engage with on Instagram, they're just consumers. They're taking in the content and they're trying to, escape a little bit throughout the day. So as a creator, there's so much content out there, and you just have to continually be putting out more and more content, whether it's your photos of your finished work that are eye-catching or videos of your process. I know there are tons of videos of, there's already thousands of videos out there of how to throw a plate or throw a ceramic bowl. But, I post it on there and I get a good amount of engagement because there's people that are new to ceramics and they just start following you, or they've been following you for a while and they have one of your bowls, but they never knew how you made it. So they're like, oh, I want to see how he makes his bowls because, I own it. I can actually see the hands and the process that goes into making this piece that I have in my cabinet right now. And it just gives the customer more value of like what they own, and being able to see the behind the scenes of exactly what goes into making it, as well as just people learning out there that want to learn how to make a ceramic bowl, and they trust how you make it and they know what your final product looks like. I mean, I could just go on YouTube and say how to throw a ceramic bowl, and I could probably find videos from, Simon Leach and John the Potter and XYZ person that throws a bowl, and maybe I get just the same amount of content out of it and I learn the same amount of stuff. But there's like 100 different ways to make the same thing, and maybe you just like following them because you like their personality and what they how they talk through their process or explain things because it just makes sense to you, or something like that. Maybe you just like their stuff and you just want to see how it gets to the point of being finished. All right, I need to get through some more of these questions because this is going to take forever. Photography of pots. I talked about that. I try to keep it pretty low key with how I photograph my stuff. You could do like the backdrop and the setting and stuff if you want, but I think that's overkill for me. I just don't want to spend the time doing that. I hate product photography and doing all that stuff. I try to keep it as low key and as easy peasy as possible. Not a lot of editing. This one's about Instagram stories. It seems like both of you are consistent Instagram story posters. What benefits have you seen? So Becca's been posting some more stories lately, but if you've been following me, I mean, I hit those stories hard. Like, I don't know how many stories I average per day. It's probably like 15 or so per day, but it depends on the time of the year. But I would just say the stories are a great way to just let people into your world a little bit. Let them understand who you are as a person more. I know these days stories are pretty filled with political stuff here and there, but I think it's just a glimpse into, who you are, what goes into your process. That might be, whereas I won't post, cat pictures on my feed, I'll post cats in my stories because it's like something that I enjoy showing, and I really love my cats, and it's just really like nice to to be flipping through stories and like you see your cat in a cute position with they're napping or something. So like that's something that catches my eye when I'm like going through a day, or if I'm out on the porch and I'm watering the plants and I'm just really proud of the way the plants are growing right now, or seeing the progress of these plants getting it's kind of like a side hobby of mine, like the planting and stuff. So like sharing that kind of thing is just giving people a glimpse into a little bit more about you, as well as just like what excites you. Like when we make tiki drinks, I love to share, hey, we made this tiki drink and it was delicious or whatever. And my wife, Rachel, will share those on like Tiki Tuesdays, and I'll repost those stories. And like, it just gives people an understanding of who you are, more well-rounded, and kind of like a behind the scenes. Like for me, I use it as I do the hands-free video. So I show a wrap up of my studio, and I'm just showing people like, hey, what did I get done today? And I put the timestamp on there to show people like it's real. I don't think you can get the timestamp on there unless you're doing it like in real time. I don't know that it does that, but like that just means that I'm not like recording this and then posting it 2 days later. It's like, this is exactly what I'm doing right now at this point in time. And it just gives people a sense of like, what did I get done in the studio today? I know I posted it like midnight a lot of times, and maybe I'm curious, as people that consume that as a follower, like if you're a potter, do you get motivated by that, by seeing what I got done the previous night in the studio, and say like, oh, he got all this stuff done. Like, that's cool. Let's get to work. Or, a lot of times I'll put little tips and tricks here and there of, last night I just talked about, using a makeshift Rubbermaid tub for like a damp box or something like that to, flip it upside down and put it over your freshly thrown pots if you don't want to put plastic over them and you don't want to like touch the wet clay. So like that's a way to like make a makeshift damp box. So little things like that, or just like writing on your pots with pencils so you know what you're going to glaze them. Like those are little like tips and tricks that I'll throw in there for the other potters out there. And I don't know, I'm curious if people that don't know anything about pottery, if they get value out of that, or if they're just like, that doesn't apply to me, skip, or what. But I just use it as a way to get people to learn more about me. And then I started doing, if you notice, I always put captions in there. And I've been doing that for like a year and a half now. It's just, it's something consistent that I've been doing for so long. And the reason I started doing that is, if you look at your analytics, if you have a business profile, you can look at your analytics and insights for stories. You'll see a lot of people are just flipping through those. Like they'll just tap through them all. And the reason I put the captions in there is some people aren't listening with audio on. Like if you're like me, I wake up at 8:30 or 9 in the morning. I got my phone. I start looking through it. I start scrolling through. And I'm like, answering comments, or I'm going through stories, and I'm flipping through those. But my wife is laying right next to me. She's still asleep, and I can't listen with audio on. So I don't know if other people are out there, or maybe you're at work and you're on your phone. You can't listen to audio. You don't have headphones. It's kind of awkward to be like out somewhere and hearing the audio from stories. So I put the captions in there. For one, people can just tap and hold, read the caption real quick. People can read that quicker than watching something for 15 seconds. And they can kind of get the gist of what I'm going to talk about. And if it relates to them and they want to watch the video of what I'm actually showing, then they can let it go and they can watch the video part of it too. And like, they're going to know what I'm talking about when I show it. It's not necessarily to say like, hey, I'm reaching a big deaf audience that can't get the audio from what I'm saying, so I'm putting captions in there. But it's just kind of like a summary of another way that people can consume my stories quickly, that don't want to spend the time watching 15 seconds of it, or they're just doing something else and they can't listen to the audio and they want to still like get some tidbit out of what I'm talking about. Plus maybe they just don't like to listen to my talking or something. I don't know. But that's just how people consume stories. But I found that useful for me, and it's just become habitual. I kind of got to go in there, and it's the only like editing kind of thing that I do with my content, really. I go in there and I type in the text of kind of what I'm summarizing what I'm talking about, and then I choose a background on the text that contrasts enough that you can actually read the text. I never put text directly on the screen because I'm moving it a lot with like what I'm showing, and you can't read it unless you have something contrasting. So if you're going to put text on there or captions on there, like use a background or something that contrasts so you can actually read what the text says. But yeah, that's kind of the stories. You can see I use it for a lot of different things. I mean, I'll share my I got a vast handmade mug collection, and I drink out of a handmade mug from different artists around the world now with all my some of my pots that I have. But I'll tag those people. I pretty much remember every single person that I bought pieces from and like who it is, and I'll tag them if I'm sharing it, and it'll usually get some good traction of people finding them that maybe didn't know about them or don't know their work or whatnot. So I think it's kind of cool to do that, or I'll do the fun little like who made this and see if people know who the artist is, and then they can kind of guess, and then I'll tag them later and kind of share who it was. It's like a little game and a little way to like engage with you all. And I use the stories extensively for the previews when we get to time for a restock and I need to show some pieces that I'm previewing. Man, the people that do those online restocks and they do the previews, some of the people that started doing that was like Pitch Pine Pottery was doing that a lot, and Alon Pottery was doing that a lot. I mean, when they're doing these monthly restocks and they started out these previews and sharing all of their pots, I was like, holy shit, that's so much work. Because I started doing it myself, and I was like, man, I got like 30 pieces, and I'm freaking wiped from posting these, and I'm like, man, it just looks like a bunch of little like Pac-Man dots at the top once I get all those stories on there too, because it's so many. So I've kind of adjusted that and tweaked it a little bit so that it's not so much. For one, I just don't have as many pieces I put in restocks, and it becomes kind of it's usually like 2 pieces in a video or multiple pieces in a video if they're all very similar pieces, and I'll kind of summarize it with, I have 3 of these, here's the price, and then I kind of just, by the time I get to the end of it, I kind of let people know, like, here's the countdown if you want to set a reminder for the time when the restock happens. That way people can get reminded through Instagram, as well as, giving people a quick way to go to the shop if they need to. They can swipe up on some of those and go to the shop, which has been a great benefit for reaching 10,000 followers. When you get to 10,000, you can do the swipe up feature, which is really beneficial. So that's the story thing. I could talk for hours on all this stuff, so we're already at 1 hour, but I'll keep rolling through some of these. So that's stories. What's the best platform to sell pieces on? I currently do IG story sales. Need to do better. There's so many ways you can sell pieces, right? So I get a lot of people that'll reach out to me through Instagram, whether it's a piece when I'm unloading a kiln and I'll show a certain piece and they're like, I love that. Can I buy that? And, usually anything that I post is pretty much for sale, as long as I still have it. I'll do my little kind of sales angle there when I'm in the comments, or whether I'm in the comments or whatever. And if people comment, on a post and say like, hey, I'm interested in that, where can I buy it? If it's available just one-on-one and it's not on the shop, I'll be like, hey, it costs this much. DM me if you're interested. That way I tell them like the price of it. I don't know why some people don't do this, but they'll say I'm interested and they'll say DM for pricing. Like, just put your price out there so other people can also see what the price is. I don't know why people don't do that more, but I don't know if it's like, oh, they don't want to scare people off because they see the price and then they're like, okay, they're going to get ghosted or whatever, and like people aren't going to say anything to them. But I'm very transparent with it. I'm like, here's the price. DM me your address and I can give you proper total with shipping cost. And that's kind of how I approach it. So if somebody, I put it on them. If they are that interested, then they will DM you. If they're not interested and you got to like seek them out, and you've got to, if they show they're interested and you DM them and you say, hey, I saw you were interested in this piece. Here's the price. Here's this. I would rather put it in the comment if they're putting it in a post and say like, here's the price. DM me if you're interested. And then if they DM you, they pretty much do it almost immediately if they're really interested. And then I directly go into the sale part of it. They'll say, hey, I'm interested in this. How much is it? Blah, blah, blah. I'll say it's $30 plus shipping. Please send me your address so that I can give you a proper ship total with shipping cost. And then they'll give me their price, or they'll give me their shipping address. I'll put that into USPS. I'll get a shipping total. And then I'll say your total is blah. With shipping, I can send it out tomorrow. That drives an immediacy of like, hey, I can get this to you within a couple days if you pay for it. And then I'll say I'll accept payment through Venmo or PayPal. And then here are the two ways that you can send it to each of those. And then usually they will come back and say, I'll send it through Venmo, and then they'll, send it, and that's that. And the sale is done. That's one way to sell. That also has a lot of back and forth. There's some logistical things that happen there. If you're busy in the studio and your hands are wet and people are commenting interested in your pieces and you only have that one piece and, it's available for sale and you want to do it that way and you want to do some of the legwork to figure that stuff out, maybe you can do it that way. I have done that way. I still do it that way sometimes. Other people are more on the side of like, I don't want to do all that back and forth. I just want to post it to my shop, my Etsy shop or whatever, and then you kind of build up an inventory of pieces. You go through all the photography side of it, you post it, you do the ounces of the piece, and you list all that in your online listing, and you put the weight in there so you know what the price is going to be accurately when you ship it and all that stuff. I do the one-to-one stuff through Instagram every now and then because I don't want to do the photography side of it. And also Etsy doesn't get that fee of the listing fee as well as the sales fee when they actually do the transaction. I pretty much get all that money, but also I'm working for that money because I'm spending time, I'll put distracted in quotes, but you're taking time away from something that you're actually doing to kind of cater to this one customer rather than letting them meet you on their own timeline. If it's on your Etsy shop, they can interact with it and buy it whenever they want because the listing is always there as long as it's available. So, you've already put your time in and done all the listing info and you listed it at a certain time and then it's live until somebody buys it. So, you've already kind of invested that time. So some people kind of like it that way. If you are in the studio and you like getting sales one-on-one with people on Instagram, I think people can appreciate the customer service side of it too, of like, hey, they're actually like spending time to interact with me and like make this sale, spending time to actually like cater to my needs in this moment. And it kind of feels like a personal touch, I think. And customers can see that. I think so. But, those are a couple ways you can do it. The story sale, I've done those a couple in the past. I haven't had that much traction on it just because the number of people that see your stories are so much fewer than the number of followers you have, as well as just they only live for 24 hours, right? So, you kind of need, definitely build up the story sale. Like if you're going to do it, I would say definitely schedule it ahead of time. So do that countdown reminder, let people know when it's going to happen so that you can build up to it over a week or so. Post some pieces building up to it the same week in your feed. And then you can, let people know in your posts. So you give people 2 or 3 days to see that the story sale is going to happen. Also get that reminder. And you're just going to build that that anticipation for when the sale happens. And then you're going to make sure you have a number of eyeballs that are on your stuff when you make it live. If you kind of do it willy-nilly and you're just like, hey, I got these pieces on the shelf, I need to do a sale, I don't think you're going to have as much success with selling it. It might not sell as well, and you're like, oh, I've done IG story sale before and I sold everything out. Why did I not sell these out? Because you're just randomly bringing it up, and maybe people didn't need a mug right now, but earlier in the week they had to buy a present for somebody, and they started thinking about what present they wanted to buy, and they saw you were doing a sale later that week, and they're like, oh, no, I could schedule some time on Saturday. I have time to buy something. So pick and choose when you're going to sell stuff based on when you think other people are able to buy. When would you be available to buy stuff? You can pick and choose when you post stuff, as well as just what time zones are people on. Where are most of your buyers buying from? Are they buying on East Coast time? Are they buying on West Coast time? Does your time work for them? If you're posting at 8 p.m. on Pacific time, it's already 11 p.m. East Coast time. Is that best for the vast number of customers that you have that might be on a certain time zone that they're like already in bed? Just think about that kind of stuff when you're going to be posting sales and restocks and stuff like that. And then you can do other ways of selling through in person and stuff like that. It says best platform to sell pieces on, so I'm assuming IG, Etsy, personal website, but I go the Etsy route because I really like their the seller interface. I mean, I do like the user interface, but the seller interface is really nice and clean. I really like that they pay the sales tax on all the places that require sales tax to be collected. They know when sales tax need to be collected based on where the buyer's coming from, and then they collect it. They send it off to the right places that you owe the sales tax to. I think that's pretty beneficial. There's mixed feelings about the Etsy fees and the structure and how much you're paying for the platform when you make a sale and to list it and all that stuff. But for me, it's worth it. I sold way more on Etsy than I have in the past, so these concerns might be more top of mind moving forward. If I keep selling, I sold almost $30,000 in Etsy this year, or 2020. Last year I sold like $3,000 worth. It was nuts. The impact of online selling this year. I think customers were just really wanting to support small businesses, and Etsy just killed it for me this year with selling. Generally, I just think it's good to have a marketplace where you could point people to, that they could find your stuff, that's always available. If you rely on Instagram and you expect people to always reach out to you directly when they see something, I feel like it's more work on the customer side to comment. They got to wait for you to read it. You got to reply to it. They got to be able to read your reply, and then they got to comment back. And there's a lot of back and forth. So it takes more time. If you always have something on Etsy, sorry, my computer just froze. If you always have stuff on Etsy, then you always have a marketplace there for customers to go to any time of day based on their convenience. And as long as the piece is there, then they know it's available. They know it's not sold out. They know they have access to buy it right then if they want it, which is super convenient. Just think of it from a buyer's perspective. Don't you hate it if you see something that's amazing and you go to their shop and it's sold out? It's like you want it to be available when you have the time to buy it and when you have that urge to buy it. There's kind of an immediacy of when you really want something and you can buy it, you'll buy it from that like impulse buy. And if you get time to kind of think about it and ponder it a little more, if you're waiting on a reply to see if something's available, you might lose that excitement or lose that itch of wanting to buy it too. So yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on that. I try to keep my Etsy shop stocked decently. And I would say if you can, like, make pieces that you can post and make multiples of them over time and use the same listing and just update the quantities, that's cool too, because I've been doing that for my shot glasses and my planters. My spoon rests are going to be in that way too, so that I don't have to update photos and listings and all these descriptions and everything. I don't have to redo all that stuff all the time. And it just makes it easier to always have pieces available, because, you know, I constantly still get orders for the shot glasses and stuff like that these days, and it's so nice not having to retake photos. I don't know if people like doing that, but I do not like doing that. So any time away from that I can do is great. There's a question about, do you ever use Etsy itself as a form of social? So like making boards, joining chats, etc. I don't. When I first joined Etsy, like 2015, 2016, I joined one of those groups that was I think it's called the Etsy Mud Team. It's probably still out there. It was a group of just potters that got together, and I think it was one of those where it was kind of like a follow for follow sort of thing, where you favorited their shop of everybody in the mud team, and then you were responsible for when people would post new stuff, you were supposed to favorite it to help with the algorithm of like getting people to get more visible. So it was just a lot of work. There's so much other stuff that I would rather be doing that I just haven't invested in, like Etsy social side of it, of the boards and the chats, and I think community is kind of what they call it, communities or something like that. I don't know what they call it now, but you know, there are social groups on Etsy that you can kind of get to with other makers that sell on Etsy, and they kind of share their experiences and stuff like that. There is also there's also a Facebook group about Etsy selling too. If you are looking for some help with Etsy, I think there's a group called Help, I'm a Small Business Owner or something like that on Facebook. Let's see, what's it called? Help. It says Help, I'm a Small Shop Owner, Etsy and more. So that's 10,000 members in there. And that's a decent group for people that are just asking questions about Etsy selling and like technical stuff about Etsy, or just things to help you with your Etsy shop. All right, this one is, how important do you think it is to have your face part of the platform? Is that just a preference? I would say it's totally a preference, but for me, I like showing my face because I just like people to know that there's a person behind here. Also, one thing to note, before you talk about your face, one thing I was talking to Amanda at Doghouse Pottery about recently, I think it's just something as simple as in your profile, just thinking about your profile first. My profile, I have my face on there. My profile picture is my face. It's not my work. It's not my brand. It's not my logo. It's my face, so people know that it's me. If you're a company that you have a bunch of employees, maybe your face isn't as important, but ultimately, it's me that runs the account. It's just me that posts stuff. It's me that comments and replies to messages. And like at the end of the day, it's me. And you could see my name on there as well. So on my profile, it says Ryan Durbin. It doesn't say RD Ceramics. You can see my account name is RD Ceramics. So that kind of helps with the brand. Like people know that that's the account. But at the end of the day, it's me. I don't have a personal Instagram account. RD Ceramics is me. It's the business. It's all of it. You know, on my account, I also talk about like Potter and aspiring small business owner. You know, I'm a host of this podcast with 5 Lines Pottery. So it's kind of like a little short like resume of like things about me. But at the end of the day, you can see that it's me represented, and my face is part of that from just the way that I like to post. You'll see less of me in my posts recently. I mean, I don't post my face a ton, but you know, if I'm doing a video about my process, I'm not scared to show my face. I just think he gives people a sense of like who you are, what you look like. I know when I go to somebody's profile, I do want to know what they look like, but also I want to know their name first, because I like to be able to, maybe it's weird, but whenever I like talk to somebody in person, usually, if I know for some people it's kind of hard to remember people's names, so I'll try to, when I meet somebody and shake their hand or whatever, or these days you're not shaking hands, but meet them. It's harder now too with masks. You can't see their face and like remember them as easily, but I try to repeat their name and remember what their name is, so that it shows that you're actually paying attention, you're listening, you are engaging with them, you're trying to show a connection with them, so that you'll remember them for the future. So I think that same way when I'm kind of on Instagram and I'm looking at somebody new and I want to see what their name is. So when I was talking with Amanda about it, I talked to her a long time ago about it, but her account said Doghouse Pottery. That's her account name, but that's also in her profile. It says Doghouse Pottery. I was like, what the hell is her name? I can't figure it out. And if you don't know their name and you don't see people commenting with their name or anything, like my wife just came in, she scared the fuck out of me. What? Hi. Bye. You ever get scared? Like, I'm not like a jumper, like a screamer when I get scared. I'm like, I'll look at you and it'll scare me, but like my hair will stand up a little bit. But I like stay calm. But I'm like, oh my gosh. Your heart just like jumps a little bit. So that's what just happened. But the Amanda, and I was trying to find her name and I couldn't find it. And what ends up happening is you scroll through their feed until you see their face, and then inevitably people post their, I've got some new faces around here, here's my name and here's what I do and all that stuff. So that's what I end up scrolling to until I find one of those posts and I see what their name is. If I can't find their name, maybe that's weird that I want to know their name, but I like to, if I'm engaging with them through comments or whatever, I might want to throw their name out. Like, that's awesome, Amanda, or whatever. I just think it adds a little bit of a personal touch of, engaging with somebody that's a little deeper than just saying like, cool, dude. But, that's about the face thing. There are people that don't show their face at all. The, Old Forge Creations, Joe, in the UK, he never shows his face. I think he showed his face a couple times in his feed, and he focuses on his pots, his process. He's got the cool shirts on when he's like the graphic tees whenever he's throwing. You can see some of his demo videos. He's got the cool different tees on like every single video. But that's kind of his vibe, and he doesn't really share his face and who he is personally as much, and it's very like business heavy, and you don't see that as much. And then like Callahan Ceramics, you don't really see his face. I didn't realize that was a male for the longest time. I thought it was a woman for some reason, but yeah, some people just don't have their face as a forefront, and some people do. So I would say it's totally personal preference. Just do what you feel, and also don't feel like it's hard to per person, because I would say it's easy for me to say like, don't overthink it and feel like you have to be all dolled up and like presentable when you're sharing yourself in stories or whatnot. But I mean, you can see my hair's all fucked up some days. Like I haven't showered that day, or I'm wearing a hat that's all dirty, or I'm wearing the same shirt that I wore the day before because I didn't really get it dirty because I didn't leave the house. Like, I don't really care, but for other people, they want to feel like they're presentable, and they're nervous to show their face, or they don't like the way they talk, or the way they sound on video, or seeing their face on video or something like that. But I would say like lean into it, like do it. You're going to get used to it over time. It's going to feel weird, it's going to feel awkward. And I mean, I still feel a little bit awkward doing it in public when there's other people around, but I could still do it at times. Usually it's just me in the studio and there's nobody else around. So it's just me talking to the camera, and I just gotten used to it. There's not anybody on the side that's like looking at me while I'm doing it. So it's, there's not that pressure. If I was in a community studio and I was doing it, it might feel a little bit weird, but keep that in mind. Like, just the more you do it, the more familiar and more comfortable you get with it. I think I want to save this question for a part 2 because that one's going to get pretty in depth. Okay, let's see. Okay, do increased follower numbers directly relate to increased sales, or is it more about getting loyal followers? This is a IG specifically question. I mean, ultimately, you want a lot of followers. If you think about it mathematically, I think I've framed this as, here, let me find my slide that I was talking about this in my workshop because I kind of framed it a certain way. So this, I kind of called it the funnel of attention. So if you think about it, the 1 billion users or whatever, right? So everyone on Instagram, 1 billion people. And then ultimately what you want to get to is a repeat customer. So the sales would be your repeat customer. Somebody that comes back, they buy multiple things, and, they're hopefully a lifelong fan. But in between there, you've got impressions. And these are like Instagram terms, but I'll kind of explain what they are. But impressions are like people that see your stuff. So eyeballs hitting your posts. Followers. So they're not going to start following you until they see your stuff, right? So that number is a little bit smaller. So everyone on Instagram, think of this as an upside down triangle. The biggest part of the triangle is at the top of everybody. And then that cone gets a little bit narrower with the number of people that see your stuff. For me, I've got 29,000 followers, but the number of people that see my stuff is maybe like 200,000 or something. We'll just throw those numbers out there. I don't know if those are accurate, but you think of like 200,000 people see my stuff, and then followers, like 30,000-ish. And then we go down from there, people that actually engage with your stuff, engaged followers. Those would be a even smaller subset. There are people that started following you on day one of when they started Instagram, and they never stopped unfollowing you, or they don't have their account anymore, or they start engaging with a lot of other people, and they're kind of like they're a follower of yours, but I don't have 30,000 people seeing every single one of my posts. That's not realistic because, like I said earlier, people are only on Instagram for 27 minutes of the day, so you're not going to see everybody's posts. Engaged followers, so those are people that are actually like commenting on your stuff. They're liking your posts. They are sharing your stuff. And then you've got like a first-time customer. So what I'm trying to ultimately do is increase this cone so that I can get more people to see my stuff, which is, more people are seeing my stuff through the account sharing me, through me putting out more and more content. That snowball is getting bigger the more content I make, the more interesting videos I'm putting up, the more interesting photos I'm taking. Those are snowballing onto all the other content that I've posted in the past, and it just gives another way of somebody to see my stuff. In order to get those impressions, you can do things like post regularly, using hashtags, tagging other people. I talked about a lot of this stuff earlier, but tagging other people, which is the product you use, or whoever, if you're sharing somebody's work and you're tagging their account. Posting to stories will get some eyeballs on your stuff. And then like something that you do that doesn't even relate to what you are posting yourself, but engaging with others. It's called social media for a reason. You can't just post and dip out and be like, all right, see ya, I did my work for the day. You got to actually be social here. And one thing that Becca's talked about that she likes that I do, that she doesn't want to do and she doesn't have interest in doing, is actually like engaging with others and like commenting on their stuff if you think something's pretty cool, or going through stories and actually replying to their stories and saying, oh, that's a cool idea, or yeah, I've thought about that. What have you had, asking for feedback or asking them questions or whatever. It's called social media for a reason. So engaging with other people is going to widen that number of people that see your work, as well as just get a understanding of like who you are a little bit, learn about your personality. To get followers, you got to post good photos. You got to post interesting videos. Be engaging with your stories. Don't just drown on about stuff that takes forever and you never get to a point, and you're taking 8 slides to fumble through something. Like, tighten it up a little bit. Understand that people are on their phone for a specific amount of time, and you kind of, it's hard to say, but I mean, you kind of have to like get to the point, because, and I know that could be contradictory because I'm in my studio and I'm doing a wrap up for 4 slides for a whole minute, wrapping up what I did that night. And there is some fluff in there sometimes, but I try to get to the point fairly quickly because I know Instagram's going to cut me off after 4 stories and I got to kind of wrap it up. And then also like having good captions. If you put something of substance in your captions, you're going to get people that better understand you. It's going to, set yourself apart. It's going to make you, be uniquely yourself. Like, what makes you you, and what are you passionate about? And you're kind of letting people in, being a little vulnerable, and sharing stuff that excites you about your work and what you're producing, or something that sparked your interest, or something you're thinking about in the moment or whatnot. But it's kind of the followers. I would say to get more engaged followers, it comes to you a lot. It's not just posting something and saying, hey, if the glaze is amazing, then people are going to engage with it. Ask them questions. Ask leading questions that will prompt them for a response, or ask for some feedback. If you see some of my posts, another point was request audience feedback. That would be like, I used to do this more, but doing the whole left-right thing, I would post a couple pieces and have people comment, like, which do you like better, left or right? And they could give feedback on what they liked about it, why they thought it was better. But it might be like 2 different mugs that are 2 different glazes, or the same mug design, or the same like color of mug, but the shape of the mug is different, and be like, which do you like better? Do you like the bellied one or the straight one? And people can kind of comment that way. But that's a way to like get some easy feedback that'll kind of show that you actually want their input. It's not just like a Pinterest board that you're just putting stuff up for people to see and there's no back and forth. It at least prompts them to say something, and it gives them some like in with you a little bit to start a conversation maybe. One of the things that I would say is one of the most beneficial ways of getting engagement for myself is to share something of value. Think about it as, I'm not just posting my pretty stuff and letting people see it and admire it. Like, they have the privilege of seeing how beautiful my work is. It's more like I'm posting stuff and giving captions and sharing. I'm sharing stuff about my process that I don't have to share. I don't have to show people how I make my stuff, because they can just make the same thing and find the same glazes and do the same thing as me. But I'm doing it to share something of value for all the people out there that are either, like I mentioned earlier, if you're a potter and you're learning how to make a spoon rest, I'm sharing that process of how I do it, how exactly I do it. I'm not keeping anything behind a curtain of something I'm doing. Like, it's super simple. It's just, building, giving a little snapshot of how I do a certain part of my process. And that's valuable to people out there that are customers of mine. I got some comments in there that were saying, sorry, I'm having to drink a lot of water. I'm talking a lot. We're already hour and a half into this. But I'm engaging with them and I'm saying, here's how I make my spoon rest. And then I had a customer that replied on there and said, yeah, I have one of your spoon rests on my counter and I love it, or, oh, I just dropped one of your spoon rests and I broke it. It was such a sad moment or something like that. And some of the customer side of it, they really appreciate seeing how that was made. That's valuable to them. And I feel like also they're kind of getting a deal on what they paid for that spoon rest. If they paid $12 for that spoon rest in person, and they're also seeing a video of how it was made, like they're getting way more than $12 of value out of that piece. Plus I explain, like I'm talking through the process. Besides just a video showing it with silence and they're seeing what I'm doing, like they can actually see what I'm doing. I'm talking through it, and they're getting way more value out of what they paid for the piece and the interaction they had with me buying the piece at the show. And it's like, it feels like a bargain for them. And I think that's also going to drive them more to becoming a repeat customer as well. This kind of gets to the first time customer, repeat customer part of the funnel. But it shows that you're sharing something of value, whether it's to peers of yours that are potters, that are up and coming, or just people that are experienced and they want to know how you make a certain thing, or they're just learning. So that's the share something of value. I would always kind of frame it as sharing. I always say sharing is caring, but like share and be transparent with what your information you're giving out, just because I don't know, it's valuable to a lot of people, and you don't have to, but I kind of do it that way just to hopefully people will do the same for me. If I have questions about something they're doing that I'm trying to get into or trying to understand more, I hope that if people ask me questions and they get answers, if I have questions for them in the future or something that they're doing in their process that I want to know about, that they'll be gracious enough to answer those questions too. So I always say, engage with them and be very forthcoming with your time. And the other engaged follower stuff I have on here is, being genuine and authentic. I would say I'm pretty skilled at that with being, I'm pretty proud of how I lead my social media that way, that I try to be authentic with people. I try not to beat around the bush and bullshit, and try to if something didn't work out, I'm pretty upfront about it. And then trying to be authentic with how I make my stuff. I'm not, like I said, I'm not super polished with my work. I got a lot of things that I'm juggling, and obviously some stuff I drop the ball sometimes, or I don't fulfill certain things that I could, and I try to be authentic about it. If a show didn't go as planned, I might reflect on it and I'll share how that show went. And maybe it didn't do as good, maybe it didn't meet my expectations, but I'll share it and I'll talk about it and why it didn't, or what happened, or what I can do to learn from it, and all that kind of stuff just kind of gives people an insight into who you are. And there's a lot of inauthenticity with social media today, right? So there's a lot of very polished, staged posts are a dime a dozen. You can find those all over the place. People that want to share how amazing their feed is and their life and all that stuff, but some of that is inauthentic, and you realize that they're trying to portray a certain what's the right word? Image. They're trying to portray a certain image that's very polished and very curated, and it's not reality for them most days. And I feel like what I try to convey is being genuine with what's going on with me day to day, and sharing stuff that excites me and keeps me engaged in this pursuit of trying to do ceramics full time someday. And you can see that as I go. And it might just be a Tuesday night in the studio, but I'm still getting work done. I'm in there till midnight, but also took a nap on the couch with the cats for 2 hours today. That's kind of how it goes sometimes. And those days and those hours in the studio add up. And that's what I try to share with stories and try to share with my posts, and show people what I get excited about and what I want to convey. And that's kind of, I think that's what people look for sure, because there's so much bullshit, there's so much ads out there. People are trying to sell you stuff all the time. And if you're looking to grow your Instagram and like grow your sales and stuff, I would say first and foremost, like, don't focus on it as a selling thing. Like, don't always put at the end of your post DM for pricing or DM like for sale in the shop or whatever. Don't always approach it that way and like put that little nugget at the end. I would say put the info out there. If customers are interested in it, and if people genuinely want to buy from you, they can find it, whether it's going to your page and seeing your link there with your shop. They can look in there and find it if they want, if they're interested. And they know how to get there. Or they can comment and say, hey, is this for sale? It's kind of on them to do that. I feel like it's too salesy to, like I said, people get served ads all the time. Instagram's all about keeping you on there and keeping you engaged as long as possible and selling. You see the sponsored ads and stuff on there, and that's how Instagram makes money. But people get served things that they need to buy all the time, and I would say don't focus on that as much, and the sales will come. Focus on what you're passionate about and what you want to convey, and the rest will follow. That's kind of how I try to, I guess, handle my social media side of it, but also just in person. Like if I know you in person, if you come up to me at a show in person, like pretty much, I hope that you get this impression, but I hope you pretty much say he's exactly the person that I know from online. Like he's genuine with people. He wants to help them out. And if you have a question, like I can ask him and he'll give me an honest answer. So, I mean, I think that's what I try to convey. And then the last thing for the engaged followers is looking at your insights. Obviously, if you have a business account, the benefit of the business account is that you can get insights for almost anything. If you go to your posts, you can go to view insights and look at those insights about how many people liked it, how many people saved it and went to your website from it and stuff like that. So there's a lot of insights on there about every single post that you have. How many people got to your post through hashtags and all that good stuff. So I would say look at those every now and then. Don't get so hung up on looking at them all the time, because it'll really drag you down and it'll really get you overanalyzing everything, because it just takes, it makes you want to kind of like build a recipe for how you should curate your feed, when I think it's more important to just get better over time of what you post, understand just through experience what does well, what doesn't do well, what you like posting about, what you get the most engagement with, and just like, I don't know how to say like that's how you should do it exactly for all your posts, but you'll get better over time, and just kind of be thinking about it. Look at your insights every now and then. If you go to your profile, you can also go to insights on your profile page and look at the last 7 days or the last 30 days and look at all the posts in relation to one another and see which posts did the best in relation to the last year or the last 30 days or 7 days or whatever. And you can like categorize it by, how many people it reached, or how many people commented on it, or how many follows you got from it. My most follows in the last 30 days was a instructional video where I was throwing a mug. I got 79 people that followed me from that. So, or impressions, which ones did people see the most? And it, not surprisingly, it was the video of me throwing a mug. So, some of this is like, don't feel like you have to overthink it as well with, I need to find something that's so unique that nobody has ever posted before. It could be as simple as like, what's a part of my process that I want to record that's good lighting, people can understand what they're seeing, it's interesting to watch, and it just gives a little bit of a glimpse into something that I do in my process. And if somebody else might make the same exact forms as you, but it's your take on it and your hand, your caption. You decide what the caption is, right? So you decide what you want to put in there. And that's kind of what I got to say about the insights. I would say look at them every now and then, but that'll, as you're growing too, and you look at it over time, that'll give you a good insight into, hey, these are the ones that are having the most impact. And maybe that's where you're like, hey, maybe I'll throw in some more how-to videos. Maybe that works for me. Or it could be that certain pieces that are like finished pieces always do decently well with me because people like to see the colors and stuff like that. I did learn over time that, the black and white photos didn't do as well. So I stopped using filters a long time ago, but I realized that even when I was using filters, the black and white ones just weren't doing as well. Just because I think they're flatter, they're kind of more moody, but they're not conveying as much information because it's black and white. So, but maybe that works for you. Maybe your work is a lot of black and white, and it just kind of sets that theme and that mood of what you're trying to convey. But let's see, that's the insights thing. What was this question originally? Increasing follower numbers by increased sales. So yeah, and then the last part of it is like getting customers, like seeing the demand of people that are interested and making the sale by kind of what I talked about earlier with the online shop. Like, how do you sell your stuff? Do you reduce the amount of friction that happens with a customer when they have to buy something? Is it they comment, they show interest, and you're like, oh, I don't have any in stock, it'll be 3 weeks, because they're probably going to lose interest over 3 weeks? Or is it, yes, I have it in stock, here's the link is in my bio for where you can buy that? That's super frictionless. All you gotta do is point them. They show interest. They've been following you for a while. They show that they're interested in a certain thing. The easiest sale to make is all you gotta do is point them in the direction. You just gotta be like, hey, there's my shop right there. And then leave it to them. They don't feel like they're being sold to. They ask you a question. You answer the question. You point them in the right direction. And then, that's that. So hopefully that's kind of the easiest way to get customers once you show that what your work looks like and all that good stuff. But yeah, I would say that's kind of roundabout way of answering that question about, follower numbers directly relating to increased sales. Ultimately, that funnel is so large and you want it to grow over time because you're only going to convert a very small portion of those people that follow you to actually buy your stuff. When I was looking at Etsy before this, I was looking at the stats of like what percentage of people did I bring to the Etsy shop versus Etsy bringing the people. And Etsy brought 41% of my visits in 2020. And I brought 59% of those visits to my shop. And the majority, the majority of that visitors were through social media. Instagram was the biggest one. Not a surprise. That number is bigger because of the number of people that see my stuff on Instagram. They see it there. They go to my Facebook profile. They go to my, I get mixed up here. They go to my, my Instagram profile and then they click on my shop. My shop is my only link on my, Instagram profile. And that's kind of a decision you have to make. Like, do you Do you have a business website as well as an Etsy shop site that's separate? Because in the end, I really want people to buy my stuff. If I give them another step to jump on before they can get to the shop, I'm just adding more friction there, like I mentioned. So if I put my RyanDurbinCeramics.com as my only link that's clickable in my profile, then I've added a piece of friction there that if they go to that site, then they can get to my shop, but they're going to go to my website first, which doesn't have anything on the homepage that's super like beneficial because it's just a lot of the same stuff with my Instagram feed, but there is a shop button. So there's a shop button. So the number of people that will go to my website and then also click the shop button. So that they're just getting further down in the funnel and you're going to get fewer people that convert from there. So what I ultimately did was just, and I've kept it there for a long time, I just keep my Etsy shop as my profile link. But if you don't have pieces in your Etsy shop all the time and you sell out and you have no inventory, maybe it's not as beneficial to keep your Etsy shop as your link all the time. Maybe your business website is better suited for that. Or, a lot of people have link trees now, which is which is just a page that you can create that's customized to however you want to style it, and then you choose what buttons are on that link tree. So you go to one link tree page and it has whatever CTA buttons you want. So I could have two different buttons, one for my personal website and one for my shop. Maybe my shop one's the top one and people have to go to the links tree and then also go to my shop. But then it's another step of friction too. So they go to the link tree and then the number of people that go to the link tree that also go to the shop or also go to my website. It's just the number of hops it takes to get to where they want to go. So that's something else to consider. But, social media was a big part of that 59% of people that went to my Etsy shop. And, that number's only going to grow the number of followers I get. So I think it definitely corresponds. The more people that follow you, the more chance you have for sales. And it's just a numbers game. You want to get that number as high as you can because the number of people that are actually going to go to your site is going to be like 5% or something like that. I'm just throwing a number out there, but let's just spitball. Let's say your follower count is 500 and 5% of those are going to go to your website link. That's 25 people. If I have 30,000 and 5% are going to go to the website, that's 1,500 people. So from 25 people to 1,500 people, mathematically that's just more eyeballs that are going to go to your site. And then just because they go to your site doesn't mean they're going to buy anything as well. So that number keeps snowballing on itself. So it's like, okay, 5% of people go to my website from my 5% of my followers are actually going to go to my website. And then you can say from there, only 7% of people or whatever. I'm just making numbers up, but only 7% of people are going to actually buy something. So of that, if that follower count is 500 people and you got 25 going to the website and then you go 7% of 25 people is going to be like 3 or 4 people or whatever it is. 3 or 4 orders potentially. But if it's 1,500 people going to the website with a bigger following, 7% of 1,500 is a lot larger. So that might be like 10. I don't even know the math, but we'll say, let's do the math real quick. That's 105 people. So, and also, conversion, 7% of people that go to your site ordering is very low percentage. It looks like the conversion rate for me is like 2.6%. So 3% of the visits to my site actually bought something. So that's a more realistic number. So that's something to kind of think about. So as those numbers grow, the more people convert because more people have eyeballs on your account. So that's a longer answer. I'm definitely going to have to split this into 2 parts, but I'll see if I can find an easy one. I need to split some of these up so I can. I want to answer one last one about. I'll answer that one later. Sorry, I'm looking through some of these to find an easy one that I was looking for. There was one about okay, here we go. This was the one I wanted to answer. So, how do you keep social media from affecting your mental health negatively? It differs person to person, obviously, with how you get mental strain on what you're consuming. Like I said, a lot of the shit that you see out there is very polished. It can make you feel inferior with the work that you're making. You know, your body image, your your looks, or just this person can produce this much. How come I can't do that? And it can make you feel small or inferior, or like you're not doing enough, or you're not working enough hours, or you're never going to catch up, or this person is producing this work and my stuff looks nothing like that. How am I even, what am I even doing here? So a lot of it, I would just say, for me, I compare, and I share a lot of this goals and stuff, and I share a lot of the numbers with you all. I don't share that to say I want to compare myself to you. I share because I'm really proud to share that I'm growing compared to myself yesterday. Ideally, I want to be 1% better than I was yesterday. If I'm growing, internally as well as just through social media or whatever, not growing in social media is not the end all be all, but the, comparing yourself to yourself, I think is what you need to be focusing on. Don't compare yourself to others, because it's just going to drag you down. There's always somebody that's doing better, that's selling more, that's making better work than you, and you can feel inferior. But I think ultimately you need to compare yourself today to who you were yesterday, or who you were a week ago, or the work you were making a month ago or a year ago. That's why I think documenting stuff on social media, for me, those 1,400 posts just gives me 1,400 points of documentation that I could look back on and see and be proud of the growth that I've had in my work and in my business and my personality and the relationships that I have. And, just looking back on, I didn't even know Becca 4 years ago, stuff like that, being able to, that's what I get the most joy out of. And that's what I look to mostly with the mental health side of it, because you can feel real negative, and you really got to block that out. And it's a lot of deciding who you follow, who's worth following, who's going. We talked about this with Amanda Schwartz on the Doghouse Pottery one, that you got to pick and choose who you follow based on if they're bringing your mood up or if they're bringing your mood down. If there are people that you feel like you're just so inferior every single time you see their work, then unfollow them. If it's hurting your mental health to see their stuff and see them doing well, or feeling like you're going to compare yourself, if you know in your brain that you're going to compare yourself to them, then space yourself away. And you got to decide that if it's not good for your mental health, then you need to step back a little bit. And there's also that thing of determining who you want to interact with in your life. Of negative definitely outweighs the. If you got somebody in a room that's negative, they're more likely to drag people down to that negative side than the all the positive people. If you're looking in a comment feed and you see a negative comment, you're going to remember that negative comment. It's going to eat at you more than all the people that appreciate your stuff, right? So the negativity definitely has more weight than the positivity, and a lot of times, and you got to kind of just let it brush off your shoulder. I know for me, I can let that happen but I mean, I'm a victim of it too. Like if I get a bad comment or I get somebody that says something to me that kind of came across as like, oh man, I like what? Or I'll feel a little bit like angry with it or something, then, it'll get under my skin. I've had somebody that I DM'd with that got under my skin a little bit, and I wrote back to them, and you like overthink it, and then you think about it, and I got a shower and I was thinking about it in the shower the whole time, and then when you get out, you go back to the comment and you look and see if anybody replied, and like it's a cycle of just like dragging you down and get like filling your head with these like you need to be validated of what you're saying, or did anybody else feel like this was did anybody else like stick up for me, or did anybody else feel the same way? Am I alone in thinking this, or also like social media is a terrible way to communicate. If you're trying to like, I mean, you definitely see it these days with like the political posts, but it's like, what do you expect out of your engagement with people? Are you expecting to change their mind? Are you expecting to start a dialogue? Are you coming at it in a way that is going to be conveyed in the right tone? Because there's like, it's text on a keyboard. There's no tone associated with words on a screen. It's hard to convey that. And the something recently that we got a comment on one of our posts, I read it a certain way, and then I said it to Becca, and I was like, oh man, they thought this. Like I read it in a way that came at me negatively, but she read it in a completely different way, and she was like, oh, they were just talking about this. They were just suggesting that maybe we could talk about this, rather than coming at it like harshly, like you're not talking about the right stuff because it's because this is more important right now, or this is pretty relevant to a topic that could be explained, and you all could voice some thoughts on. But it's one of those things where you almost have to like sit on it and don't act immediately. It's kind of like one of those where if you have an angry, somebody said like if you have like an angry email or something and you want to reply to it, like reply to it, but leave it on draft and don't send it, and then come back the next day on like a fresh, a fresh night of sleep, and then read it and then decide if you want to send it. It's one of those things where you almost have to step back and not act in the moment because you're acting very emotionally, right? So that's where the whole like keeping it from affecting your mental health. It could be not following certain accounts. It could be not engaging. For me, if it's a lot of like controversial topics or something like that, I don't really engage with any of it because I for one, I don't want to spend the time like getting into that spiral with them. Like I know that it's going to have an effect on me. And some people would say like, oh, well, it's good for you to like challenge your thinking and like have a conversation and discussion. But is that the best way to do it? Is through a text and a keyboard with a stranger that I don't know the best way to do it? Or is it better to like let it go, don't engage? Because is the engagement just going to lead you down a path that's going to be more negative down the road, or is there something positive out of it? Because, I mean, a lot of those situations, it's going to, if it starts negative and it's, you go back with somebody negative, then it, like, how is it going to come out positive in that end? Because you want to, you want to see who's right or who's wrong or whatnot. And, it definitely feels like it's a lot more negativity out there right now than positivity, and it could be something that I do with the this is just with the timing, and this kind of ties in with one of the other questions about timing of like understanding how much time to be spending on it. Because here I'll actually tell you how much time I've been spending on Instagram lately. But you can look at your insights. If you don't know this, you can look at your activity feed. If you have, this is also from an iPhone. I don't know if you're an Android user, but I'm sure you could find this information out on your Android too. But if you're on your profile, you hit the dash at the top right. You can go to your activity and look at your time. So my daily average time on Instagram the last 7 days is 3 hours and 18 minutes. But you can actually, if you don't already do this, you can set reminders. So what I do is I set a daily reminder on Instagram. Obviously it's not working because my daily reminder is set to 2 hours and 10 minutes. And what it'll do is at 2 hours and 10 minutes of being on Instagram, it'll pop up a notification that says, hey, you've been on Instagram for 2 hours. And that just gives you a little time check of like, hey, maybe you ought to put your phone down. And you determine what that time is. And you can also do, from that same screen, you could do notification settings, which I've been doing this a lot lately because if I'm guilty of it. During the work day, I've been working from home for like 7 years now, and it's really tough not to just pick up the phone like 80 times throughout the day. I mean, honestly, it probably is about 80 times. Like I'm not joking with you. And it's addictive. I mean, that's the point of some of these apps, that they're intentionally addictive. And for me, I've used the notification settings recently because I'll post something in the middle of the day, right? So I put a post out at noon or something like that. And then what's going to follow after a post. You're going to get a lot of likes on it. You're going to get comments. You're going to get people that might be messaging you or whatever. And you're going to see notifications pop up on your phone. If you're like me, you have your phone sitting there and the screen is face up. You can see it while you're working. It's going to be a distraction. If I see an Instagram notification come up, I will, even if it's for like a split second, it's still distracting me from what I'm doing. So something you could do, one trick, I mean, we've talked about it before, but you can just like, maybe it's as simple as flipping your phone upside down. Maybe it's putting your phone on the other side of the room so you actually have to get up to get to it. Maybe it's putting it in a drawer on your desk or underneath. So I have this like lifted table. So maybe it's like putting it under this tabletop where my laptop is so I can't see it in my immediate eyesight. And I can't just reach over and grab it. But the pause notification setting is what I've been using lately. So what I'll do, you can go to notification settings in that same Your Activity menu. Or if you hit the -- you can go to settings and then notifications and say pause all. And that'll just pause every single notification from showing up on your like iPhone push notifications. And you can pause all. I've been doing it for like 4 hours or something like that. And then none of those notifications will come into your phone for 4 hours, which is amazing because it doesn't distract you. Do not disturb only does so much. And the pause notifications has definitely helped me when I need to be heads down and like focusing on something. Or if I'm in an art show, it's very beneficial for an art show too. If I get there at, 9, 10 o'clock and the show starts at 10, and inevitably I usually post and share. I share, hey, I'm at this art show. Here's a photo of me at the art show. Here's my booth, whatnot. And then you post it. You know what follows. Notifications follow. I'm on Square with a customer and I'm trying to ring them out, and then I constantly keep getting notifications in there. So that's a great solution to use pause notifications on Instagram. Get those out of here. Don't keep having notifications pop in there. And then you choose when you want to go engage with the feed and your comments and stuff. If once you open your app, even though they're paused, it doesn't mean that it's not going to show the little bubble that says you've had like one comment and X number of likes or whatever. You're still going to get that, but you choose when you want to see it by opening the app. If you, and there's also a thing that I did with my iPhone that they have a setting on there. I think they've had it for the last few years, but when you, they have like the lift to wake kind of thing, where if you have it flat on the desk or whatever, if you just have it in your hand and you like pull it up to your face, it'll wake it up, which is just another way that will like get you to look at something that's on your phone that's like a push notification or something, and then it's just giving you something else to start engaging with. So I actually turned that setting off because I want to manually be able to like click a button to prompt the screen to wake up, because it's just another subtle way to minimize the distraction, because I'm already on my phone so much throughout the day that I need to minimize it. I know it's a problem. I know I need to address it. And even if it's just little things like that, they add up. Screen time wise, the last day, see all activity. Let's see. The last week, 6 hours on my phone. Like, that shit adds up so much. It's crazy. That's just the last 7-day track or something, but yeah, that stuff adds up. And I already know I'm going to be on my phone a lot every day. So any 30 minutes away, or just setting your phone down, flipping it face down, and usually I do pretty good when I'm in the studio. I'm not on my phone, and I'm able to just get on there at the end of my night and do a wrap up. And actually, I'm thinking about it. Maybe I'll do like an Instagram live or something here in the coming weeks, since I'm getting in the studio and throwing a lot more. Maybe I'll do a live here and do some actual live throwing while I'm just in there working. Normally I'm just watching a TV show or watching a movie or something, but maybe that'll be fun because I haven't done a live in a long time, and I think it's probably due. But all right, so that is about not even half of the questions that you all asked. This got to a fucking long, drawn out. I mean, you could tell I could freaking host a podcast by myself if I had to. I mean, I can talk forever. And I've got every question here. And the next one, I want to record this in 2 different parts because we're already at 2+ hours. But I got some important ones that I want to answer on the next part. And I hope it's a little more focused of like just answering these questions and getting through them. But I hope you enjoy this one. I hope you got something out of it. And yeah, I'll see you on Instagram. I didn't really talk about Facebook much on here, but we'll get to that a little bit next time. And I'll kind of list out the questions that I still have remaining. Don't worry if I didn't answer your question. I'll get to it, and we'll answer it in the next one. We'll talk about picking out hashtags that are good for you. When to post on social media, and there's some stuff about like understanding what the hell an algorithm is, how it works. I'll give you my thoughts about that. Yeah, just a number of other ones that I did not get to, and maybe we answer those with Becca, or maybe I just record another solo one so we have in the bank. So that's all I got for you tonight. My throat is freaking parched. 2 hours of talking. It was a lot. I even got a little like emotional in a couple of those little spots of talking, but yeah. I hope y'all enjoy this. It's a little bit weird just talking to a microphone, but I know that there's people on the other end listening in their studios and enjoying the podcast. I really appreciate you all following along the last I guess it's been like 15 months now, to a little over a year that Beck and I have been doing this. Definitely looking forward to more ahead. We got more makers to chat with. I kind of feel bad sometimes because of all the just ideas we have floating of who we want to talk to, and actually doing the logistics to set up time with them and chat with them. I know we talked about getting with a friend of ours to talk about personal finance. We still have that on the books. There were some scheduling issues with actually getting to talk to him And we're actually going to, and we wanted to do that in person because it's definitely an in-person back and forth conversation. So Becca and I need to get together and talk with him about that. Definitely want to do that. I have, we talked last week about, or the last episode that came out about a friend of mine that's more in the art world, that's a professor. I'd like to talk with him. There's other makers locally that I'd like to talk to. I think Becca and I would like to. I think we have it on the horizon that maybe we would at some point go visit some artists and maybe chat with them for a podcast and visit their studios and kind of do that thing. So, there's definitely more coming. We'll kind of see how the transition works with Becca in Indianapolis as she starts a new job and starts making her own new body of work in a new studio and a new apartment, and hopefully getting some time to hang out outside of like business together for her and I and Rachel and stuff like that. So we'll see where this goes, but I only have high hopes for the podcast moving into the 2021, and I'm so thankful for all of you all listening and sharing your comments and your questions with us. It definitely drives the content here. A lot of days we'll just kind of get a question from you all, and it sparks a conversation in Becca and I, and just like, hey, do you want to just talk about this and just see where it goes? And that's what a lot of these episodes end up being. So I'm happy that you all enjoy it and hopefully get some value out of it. If not, you just, entertainment as well while you're in your studio working. And thanks for listening. This is a long one, but we'll catch you next time. And thanks so much.
Hey guys, thank you so much for listening to our podcast. We really appreciate it, and we're having so much fun. If you want to follow us individually on Instagram, you totally can. Ryan's Instagram handle is @RDCeramics, and mine is 5 Lines Pottery. That's the number 5. We would love to hear from you, and don't forget to write us a review on our podcast. We read every single one of them, and we totally appreciate them. They help us out an awful lot, and they also put smiles on our faces. I hope you guys continue to listen, and we love you. Thanks. Bye.